everyone, my name is Marie, welcome to my channel, and welcome to another speed build. I hope you have some snacks and a cup of tea or coffee because we have a pretty long video today, and that's because I'm building a fancy or grand estate in the world of Windenburg, and this one is inspired by the castle estate kit that we got a few weeks ago. It's actually been a little bit already. And I actually started this build, I think about 2 weeks ago, I want to say, or yeah, I think pretty much almost 2 weeks ago I started this build, and it definitely took me a little bit to finish it. I did some parts by myself, and then I did some parts of it on stream, so that was a lot of fun as well. And then overall, it took me a while and a lot of sittings to actually finish this build because it's so big and very overwhelming. It's on the 64 by 64 in Windenburg, in that more, not the downtown area or the island, but like the more foresty area of the world, I want to say. So that's where this is at. And this is on the, like I said, on the 64 by 64. And I don't do a lot of 64 by 64s because they tend to intimidate me, and that's a lot of space. That is a really big blank canvas, and that can sometimes be very inspiring and other times that can be very intimidating. So that's why I usually, I don't really do this very often. And when I do, I think that the last time I tackled a 64 by 64 was in the fall when I built a pumpkin patch in the world of Hanford on Begley, I think that one was. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was in the cottage living world. So that was 64 by 64 as well, but the build itself wasn't even all that big. I just needed all that space for like the pumpkin patch, and I did a huge pond, and there was just a lot of outdoor, basically just a lot of landscaping and like farming and stuff going on. This one also has a lot of yard going on, and it also has horse stables, by the way, but also the house itself is huge. I think I ended up with 7 bedrooms. I might be wrong here. I'm not exactly sure. I had to, I should have gone back and quickly check that before I sat down to do this voiceover, but I didn't. But of course, as always, at the end of the video, after the speed build is over, then we will go into the game and I'll show you the house. I'll give you a tour in real time so you can get a bit of a better look and feel of what the place actually looks like. But yeah, I think I ended up having 7 bedrooms and probably the same amount of bathrooms, if not a couple extra bathrooms. I am not exactly sure, but we'll have to go and see at the end of the video. But yeah, it's a huge house with tons of bedrooms. I actually had too many bedrooms at first, so I was like, okay, I'll just create an entire butler suite upstairs as well, so we can give them their own little living area and their own bedroom and stuff, so you can have a live-in butler as well. And then, like I said, there's space for horses. I created horse stables and a little area for the horses to trot around outside as well, like a little fenced-in area, so that's fun. But realistically, the space for the horses is a little small, but I was definitely imagining that you have this grand estate and this 64 by 64, but realistically, probably they own a lot more land surrounding the house. So I was kind of imagining that they probably have a huge plot of land in this area where they'll just have their horses roam free and stuff like that. And then over here we have the horse stables on the lot, and there's a little area for them to just walk outside and just hang out. So that's really cute. And I was thinking 2 horses, but I actually put in 4 of those beds, so you can have 4 horses total if you want to, but like I said, that way the outdoor space for the horses would maybe be a little bit small. But yeah, you could have 4 horses if you wanted to, but that only leaves space for 4 Sims in your household. And in a build like this, that's not a lot of Sims. And I was definitely imagining a large family, definitely a very rich, wealthy family. They are just a very rich family. They always have been, just old money, that kind of a thing. So yeah, definitely very rich and probably snobby people as well. I wasn't really imagining, I didn't really have the storyline in my mind for the family living here, their personalities and stuff, but basically just rich people is what I was thinking. And also for the speed build, I don't actually think that I definitely did not record all of the bedrooms either, because as you can probably tell, this video is already super long. The footage and on its own is like 45 minutes already, the sped up footage that is. And I did cut out a couple of the bedrooms because there was just like a lot of them basically, and it was a bit repetitive. And because I didn't necessarily think of these people's personalities all that much, the bedrooms are pretty plain. Like, they each have their own color scheme and they're detailed and cluttered a little bit, but for the most part, they're not super personalized or anything. So, but I will obviously show you all the bedrooms at the end of the video. But here you can see I was getting started on the horse stable. I decided to flip the lot or the house around on the lot. When I was messing around with the shape of the house at first, I was building it just like in the orientation that the lot is supposed to be, like the house facing the road basically. But then as I was going to like work on the shapes and like the porches and like adding the horse stables and stuff, one of my friends on stream actually suggested I flip it around and like have the house face the side of the lot instead of like the road, if that makes sense. So that's what I did here, as you can probably tell. So now it's facing the other way, and it gave me a little bit of extra space to work with, like at the front of the house, like in front of the house. And we have the horse stables here, and the orientation just makes a little bit more sense. Otherwise, I would have had the house facing the front, and then I would have had the horse stables behind the house, like in the back, which obviously would make sense, but this orientation just is a little bit more like fun, I guess, a little bit more interesting to look at. And there's just like these huge gardens at the front of the house. I did a little bit of symmetrical gardening or like landscaping over there with a tiny, or not tiny, but like compared to everything else, they're tiny, like those small hedges, like kind of maze looking gardens. They're not actually a maze, but you know what I mean, like with the hedges and the fountain in the middle. So I thought that was something fun and different that I've never done before. And I actually really like how the pathways came out for this house as well. There's just a bunch of pathways. It was so intimidating, like to look at this build and like see all that grass, and I just wasn't sure what to do with it. And then I was so happy when the pathways came out the way they did, and they look really good. And obviously there was still a lot of landscaping to do, but those like kind of winding pathways make it look like something out of a fairy tale, you know, because the build itself is very angular. So I really wanted to play around with like softer, rounded pathways, if that makes any sense. So I feel like that turned out really nicely, and I'm just really happy with overall with like how it came together. Like I said, it definitely took me a while, but I'm overall really happy with the shape of the house. I knew that I wanted to build a big estate, and when I knew that I wanted to do that, I actually went on Pinterest hoping to find some sort of reference photo that I could just like work off of, but I couldn't really find anything. I was looking at like small castles and like chateau kinds of things and like grand like estate kind of builds, and they were all really pretty houses, but it wasn't really what I wanted to build. I had this clear vision in my mind of a mix between like a Victorian house shape, but also like a Tudor style kind of house, except make it castle estate kit, if that makes sense, with like the brick on the outside and the beautiful fences and the huge like arched doors and windows. And yeah, that's kind of what I was imagining. I'm not sure, like this is probably an existing style, like this exists, right? Because my inspiration comes from somewhere. But yeah, I guess you could call it like a chateau kind of thing. It doesn't really have any towers, so it's not necessarily a castle, but I don't know. It's just a really fancy, huge house. And like I said a couple times, it was kind of intimidating, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm really proud of how it came together. I think this might be the biggest house I've ever done. I've done, like I said, 64 by 64 lots before, but I don't think I've ever done a house that is this big. I've done big houses like modern mansions in the Get Famous world before for like famous people, like famous Sims, but this kind of thing, not so much. And it is really all thanks to the Castle Estate Kit, because that one actually inspired me to really step out of my comfort zone. I had never done any castle-like builds ever before in The Sims. up until the Castle Estate kit came out. So that was something way out of my comfort zone. And yeah, it's something I find myself to be really enjoying, which I didn't actually expect that, but it somehow really inspired me, and it's just a lot of fun for me to do. And now that I finished this one, I'm kind of excited to do more, because I feel like this kit just works really well with the world of Windenburg. I know that a lot of people have actually used this kit in Windenburg to like redo that big, what's it called? Like the castle ruins that you can visit. That is so smart. Like that is definitely something I kind of want to try to do as well. But like after this humongous project, I'm kind of like, I need to do something else for a little bit, and then I'll do that at some point probably as well. And then people also suggested the Realm of Magic castle. Oh gosh, what is that lot called? It's in the Magic Realm, and it's like that one castle kind of a thing where you go if you want to become a spellcaster, for example, and then after that you can visit it as well. But it's like basically that build where you can do all the magic and where you can learn and where you'll find the original like spellcasters, like that build. People have been suggesting that they would like to see a redone version of that with a Castle Estate kit, and I think that's a lot of fun. And also something for vampires. I'm not the biggest on occults, really, but with this pack, or like with this kit, it opens a whole new world of possibilities. And yeah, it's something that I have been feeling very inspired to do, actually. So maybe another, like a new castle for Vlad might be fun to do at some point as well. So yeah, I definitely have ideas, but if you have any ideas of other things you would like to see kind of inspired by this style or by this kit, let me know. I know we've had the kit for a while. It's not like necessarily very new anymore, but like I said, I started this build like 2 weeks ago, which back then the kit was still kind of new. You know, it's still the most recent one we got, of course, so you know, it's not old news yet. But this build just kind of took me a long time, and it took me a few sittings to actually finish this. And the window situation was definitely a task. I decided to just sit down and do the windows before I did the floor plan, which isn't something I do a lot these days anymore, because that usually makes it so that I will like run into issues when I start doing the floor plan, because then the windows are going to be in the way and it's not going to make any sense anymore. But for this one, I was like, okay, that floor plan, I'm going to need to sit down and like figure that out for a hot minute. So let me just do the windows before then, so that it at least looks good from the exterior, and then I can make minor adjustments if it doesn't make sense for my floor plan. But for the most part, as I was like working, or like, yeah, kind of like shaping this house, in my brain I could already see where windows would be and like where doors would be. So I kind of just like took that and did that, and then I kind of went from there with the floor plan, and I feel like the floor plan actually came out pretty nicely. Here you can see I'm doing some landscaping. I definitely skipped over some landscaping. I did a lot of it just by myself, not everything, but I did definitely a little bit of it just off camera, because it was a lot of landscaping and it was just going to be a little bit too repetitive. And again, if I actually would have kept all the footage, this video would have been like an hour and a half, so that is not like great. I know I've asked this before, and a lot of you actually said that, a lot of you were like, you know what, the longer the speed build the better, because I listen to it in the background while I do like chores or other things, and that made me so happy, because I'm the same. I love longer videos, longer speed builds, or just like vlogs, you know, like that sort of a thing to like listen to and kind of watch when I'm doing other things on the side. And it makes me so happy that a lot of people watching my videos still feel the same way, because these days, you know, with TikTok and the reels and like the short form content, in my brain I'm like, that's everything people want to see these days. But thankfully that is not the case, because it's not my favorite thing to create. Like, I love my longer speed builds and like longer videos and let's plays. I started a new let's play the other day as well. I'm not sure if you have seen that video or if that is something that you're interested in, but that is up on my channel as well, and a lot of you reacted to it so positively, and you said that you were very excited to see a new let's play and new legacy challenge. So that also made me really happy, so thank you for all those kind comments as well. And if you haven't seen it, it is up on my channel. I have a playlist for it. It's called the Pack Legacy Challenge. I'll try to remember to maybe link it in the description box, or like have it pop up here on in the video somewhere, but I will probably forget to do that because I am very forgetful, but you know, I'll try to remember. But here you can see we have these little gardens at the front with the fountain in the middle. We have a lot of fountains in this build, actually. I ended up placing a couple more at the front porch as well. I really like the front porch situation. I decided to put a couple of ponds on this lot, as you may have seen already because they're already there. But that's because there was so much landscaping to do and there was like an awkward area of grass that I just wasn't sure what to do with, and plants were becoming a little bit boring at that point because there's so many of them on this lot. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna do some ponds. So we have 2 ponds, which I feel like looks really cute on this lot. It definitely makes sense. And I really wanted to make this house look very old, and it's centuries old. Like this house is really, really old. And so you'll see some like parts of ruins of like old walls that have kind of like broken down, and like I used a lot of the get together ruins kind of like items. I'm not sure exactly what to call them, but you know what I mean probably. So I scattered those around the place as well. And then we have a really old pond, a couple of them as well, and there's some really old like statues around. So that's kind of what I try to create. Obviously the people here are very wealthy and they spend a lot of money on maintenance on the house, and they like clean it and stuff, but still it's very, very old. And I kind of wanted to show that as well. So I feel like that actually worked out. And also what was a lifesaver for this build was the vines that I placed all around. I think I mostly used the debug vines from Cottage Living. Those vines are not only debug, they're also in the actual build by menu. But the debug catalog actually has a couple more in a couple different variations too, which are just really helpful for big builds like this if you have like really large like walls and like really big spaces to kind of fill up and make more interesting. Then those debug vines actually work out really nicely. So you can see that I placed a lot of those, and then here we're doing a little bit of landscaping in the back. I didn't really have a lot of space at the back of the house because, like I said, I flipped it around and I focused on the main area, like basically between the front of the house and the horse stables where the ponds are. But then we also have this area in the back, which is actually still really big, but compared to everything else, it's really small, if that makes sense. But yeah, we definitely have a couple of pathways and some gardens in the back as well. We even have a pool in the back. So there's that, and it's not like the nicest pool, it's kind of old, but I felt like a pool would be cool for a house like this. Like, these people are rich, they probably put in a pool at some point, so I kind of wanted to do that as well. But the back of the house is not necessarily my favorite. I like the pathways, but it's not my favorite. My favorite area is like the stables and the ponds and like the front porches, or is it called a porch? Maybe it's not a porch, like the way up to the house, basically. I have some split leveling going on by the front door, which I thought was really cool, with different foundations and kind of looking out over the pond, so I thought that was cool. And then here you can see, you can get a little bit of a glimpse of the horse stables. I was messing around with the shape of those for the longest time. It was just not working out for me. I did not know what to do with the shape of the horse stables, so I actually messed around with that off camera as well, and that one I turned into a tiny castle by itself. Like, it basically has a tower up top, and I'll obviously give you a better look at that when we tour the build. So that is something fun to look at as well, like at the end of the video. I'm really excited to show you. And the horse stables are huge. You can definitely fit 4 horses in there, like, easy. But the funny thing is, when you build a house that is this big, I found myself losing track of size proportions the entire time. Like, I was not aware of the fact that this house was so big until I started to furnish it. And everything was so tiny. It was the funniest thing. Like, I just lost track of the size proportions, and in my brain, everything was going to be so much bigger, but you know what? It's really the house that's huge. And the walls that are super tall, because I was working with a tall wall height, at least for the ground floor. I think for the second floor, I used medium wall height, but I'm not exactly sure. Either way, the walls are super tall, and I started to decorate the place, and you can see those bookcases that I place on either side of the fireplace. Those bookcases are from Strangerville, and they're actually for medium wall height, and they're so tiny. So I actually had to size them up. So we have literally, compared to a sim, we have giant bookcases with giant books. But it's okay, because I really needed something like big, like a big bookcase to kind of fill up the space next to the fireplace, because everything looked so silly, so I just kind of had to. But then as I was furnishing, I was kind of slowly but surely getting used to the size proportions of everything, and I had so much fun decorating this place. So I definitely wanted to make it look very old, but also there is a family living in this house now, you know what I mean? So it's old, but also we do need some technology and stuff in the house. However, I tried to kind of hide it. So over here, I just kind of started on a random room. As I was decorating, I was like, I don't know where to start. So I just kind of started with the living room space. And I didn't put a TV in here. We have a formal seating area here with a fireplace and a huge painting above the fireplace. There is so many paintings in this house, it could be a museum. But I did that on purpose because, again, the house is very old. This family is like centuries old, and they have a lot of like founding family members probably, so there is a lot of like very old paintings and portraits in the house to kind of represent the family history, if that makes sense. So that's what I kind of did throughout the entire house. There is a lot of art and a lot of fireplaces. I tried to put a fireplace in every room. I think I ended up doing that, but I might have forgotten a room or two. But I feel like for the most part there's fireplaces everywhere. And I did that on purpose because this house didn't have like central heating, you know, like they didn't have that back in the day. And maybe now they do, because the house is probably kind of modernized in that sense. It's probably kind of updated, but I still didn't like that to be, I didn't want that to be visible. So I decided to go with fireplaces in every room for the sake of heat. And I felt like that was so cool because I ended up putting a fireplace in the kitchen. There's fireplaces in the bedroom. We have this library over here where I put a fireplace in, and I normally would never do that. I would normally just put a fireplace in the living room and that's it. Maybe in a bedroom if you have, like, if I have a lot of leftover, like space left over, then I would do that. But yeah, it was something a lot of fun and very different. And of course, for this house, I wanted these people to have their own library. I wanted them to have like an office, but for this style, make it a library. So that's what I did. So we have a bunch of bookcases and we have a chess table in here. I obviously had to go with like the Harry Potter headmaster's office kind of vibe, with like a desk in the middle, surrounded by bookcases and this like huge chair. At first I was like, let's put 2 chairs in, but then I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do 1 chair and this huge desk with a small typewriter. That typewriter came in handy because a regular computer or laptop would have looked kind of ugly in this kind of style, like this library kind of thing. And I was so happy that I came across, or that I remembered, that typewriter. And that one came in handy for my previous castle build as well, which is where I did the museum kind of castle that I also turned into a library. And then those typewriters came in handy too. So I used one here as well. And it kind of blends in nicely, and it's still functional for your Sims if you actually end up using this. However, I mean, I'm not sure how functional this build would be for your everyday Sims gameplay. It's obviously functional, but it's so big. Like, the house is so big. And I really did try to keep routing in mind. I really tried to make the floor plan in a way that it makes sense for your Sims to route around. There's a bunch of archways everywhere, and it's very easy to get from point 1 to point B. But it's still a really big house, so it's probably going to take them a while to walk from the butler's quarters to the kitchen, for example. Like, that is a long walk. But that's just kind of what it is because the house is so big. But still, I did try to keep that in mind, and I think I succeeded, and I have playtested the build and everything is functional. It's just really big. You won't even realize it until you have a Sim walking around here, because still in The Sims, furniture is pretty bulky compared to Sims, like the little humans. furniture is just really big, and you know, it's just so funny to see, like, once you actually got a sim here, once you're like, when you're creating this build and messing around with the space, you kind of get used to the size. But then you start to play test it and you get sims on the lot. You can kind of already tell by these armor suits of armor. I never remember what that item is called, or what you call that object. It's a suit of armor is what it's called, right? I'm not sure. Those are kind of sim size, I think, if not even a little bit bigger. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, you can kind of tell like how tall the walls are and just how big everything is. But yeah, here we have the hallway space, and the hallway space, the entryway space, gave me the most trouble. Like, I wasn't sure what to do with it because, again, it's a huge room. What am I gonna do with all that space for just an entryway? So I decided to kind of put a divider wall in the middle, and we have this, basically this entryway space where we have this really big runner and just a couch and a little side table. And then on the other side of that wall, I decided to give this family their own tiny little museum. So they have like a, one of those trophy cases kind of things in there, and just some other knickknacks and some paintings and whatnot. So it kind of looks like a little museum kind of thing in their hallway. I'm not exactly sure, just like to show off things from the family, I guess. That's kind of what I was going for. And then here off of the hallway, we have a huge bathroom. Again, I never make bathrooms this big, so I was like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do with this space? This bathroom is huge. But I actually, at some point, started to really embrace the spaciousness of it all, and I kind of lost the urge to you know, clutter everything up or fill up every single little corner of the build, because that would not be possible. And also, I feel like with builds like this, I guess the rooms always kind of feel not necessarily empty, but just very spacious. There's just a lot of space, and not every corner is filled up and like cluttered up, because that's literally impossible. Also, for the sake of running the game, if you do want to actually use this build, and also for running it even on my computer, at some point it started to lag a little bit. I could kind of see that my computer was like, okay, this is big. There's a lot of things everywhere. Give me a second, you know? And my computer, I mean, not to brag or anything, but this computer is a beast. So if it already starts to be somewhat a tiny little bit laggy, then I can only imagine what it would do on like someone who's just trying to play Sims on their laptop, you know? I can kind of imagine that that could be a little problematic. So I really tried to not clutter up every single corner of every single room, and I think I succeeded. Over here we have the dining room, by the way. That is what we have moved on to now. And in the dining room, again, the space was huge, and I thought, you know what, these people probably give a lot of parties, so I wanted to kind of fill in the dining room in a way where they could host huge parties with a lot of guests, with a bar and some music. So that's basically what I did. So apart from just the regular, I guess, family dining table, there is a couple of smaller dining tables, kind of in like a restaurant setting almost. So that is what I decided to do for the dining room, so they could give dinner parties pretty easily. They won't be cooking themselves. Obviously, they have their cooks and their butler for that probably. But that is definitely a possibility for this house. And then another thing that they have is a literal space for parties. I think I did that pretty much last, like after I did all the bedrooms and bathrooms on the second floor even. I came back downstairs because I wasn't necessarily sure what to do with that specific portion of the house. But I decided, you know what, we're gonna turn it into a party space. So that's what I did. We have a second bar in there. There is a dance floor. There is a piano kind of thing. So if you wanted to like host a wedding or something, you could very easily use that area for like a wedding. You would have to like put in a wedding arch and maybe a table for like a cake, a buffet table kind of thing. But for the rest, that would be kind of fun to actually like host a wedding or something over there, or just like a birthday party or whatever kind of party. And you can have dinner parties here in the kitchen, or yeah, kind of in the kitchen dining, I guess. And I really, really like how this dining room came out. I think this might be one of my favorite rooms in the house. I just feel like it turned out so much more cozy than I kind of expected. I was kind of scared of this room from the beginning, which is why I didn't start on it. I actually kind of procrastinated doing the dining room because it was so big and the shape was kind of wonky and I wasn't sure what to do with it. But then I came up with the idea to actually put in a bar in the living room or in the dining room, and that's what saved me. Like, that's when I felt inspired, and that's where that room kind of took off, I guess. And then off of the dining room, we have this really small room that I turned into a little entertainment space. So the one and only TV that we have in this house is in this room. You can see that we have a TV here, which I kind of meant to have like as a TV that you would have play in the background when you're playing your foosball or your darts and enjoying your scotch, you know, like that sort of a thing. You could just kind of have the TV. It's like their own little private bar, except there's no bar in this specific room. But that's kind of the vibe that I was trying to go for. So they have a little entertainment room off of the dining room, which I thought would also be perfect for dinner parties, you know? After dinner, maybe after dessert, you enjoy your wine and you play some foosball, like that sort of a thing. A pool table would have been even more perfect, but we don't have that. We don't have a pool table in The Sims 4, unfortunately. I don't think. No, I'm pretty sure we don't. And I'm still hoping that at some point we'll get one, because for houses like this, like that is just so perfect. And then here we have the kitchen, and again, the kitchen is huge. I wasn't exactly sure what to do with the space, but I decided to go for a very symmetrical kitchen with an island in the middle. So that's what I did, and the kitchen's really big. Again, I tried to take it down a notch with the clutter in here because it just didn't really look right, and it's so big, you know? But still, I wanted it to look very lived in and kind of cozy in a way. I know a build like this wouldn't necessarily be like the coziest of spaces because it's so huge. But I still really wanted to try and make it look at least a little bit cozy. And I think it turned out really nicely. I don't think I've ever used this checkered floor, the black and white tiles that I'm using here in the kitchen. And as kind of when I started building this house already, when I started on working on the shape, kind of like as soon as I knew what kind of a build I wanted to do, I was like, I have to use the black and white checkered floor in the kitchen because I've never used it before, and it's such a staple. And I literally don't think I've ever used it before. I remember in The Sims 1, we had a flooring like this, and I used to use it all the time because I was, I don't know, 8 years old, and kitchens had this fancy checkered floor. Like, that's just what you did when you were 8 and building a house in The Sims 1. I'm sure there is someone here that can relate. And so that's kind of what it reminds me of to this day still. When I see this flooring, I think of huge Sims 1 kitchens that are way too big for the space and that don't make any sense. That's kind of what I think of when I look at this flooring. And so, I don't know, I guess this house in a way kind of reminded me of Sims 1 because back in those days, I used to build mansions and mansions only. So everyone lived in a mansion. Every house ever was huge, way too big. But the bigger the house, the better, you know? So that's kind of what I did when I was a kid playing The Sims 1. And that's, I guess, just kind of what this house, this entire build reminded me of. Because it's so big, and like I said, probably one of the biggest homes I've ever built, if not the biggest house I've ever built in The Sims 4. So I guess I was just kind of feeling a little bit nostalgic as I was working on this place. And then here in the kitchen, we have this little wonky space in the back where there's 2 doors leading to the outside as well, little porches or staircases outside. And so I was like, you know what, we have that big dining room, but what if we just add a tiny little breakfast nook? So that's what I did in this space. Over here we have a fireplace. Again, I was using one of the more like less fancy fireplaces in here. I wanted to create a little cozy space, so I used one of the very old rustic looking fireplaces from cottage living in here, and I thought that made so much sense. So we have a cute little 4-seater dining table in here, and this is this family's definition of a small cozy breakfast nook. For others, for normal people, it would be a regular luxurious dining room, but for these people it's a cozy little breakfast nook that they probably, I mean, I guess they actually do use it all the time. If you're not actually hosting a dinner party, would you really even use that fancy dining room? Probably not. It just probably kind of sits there. Maybe for family dinners, because there's more than 4 people living in this house is what I was imagining. So maybe if they do have family dinners, they'll use the dining room, but for the rest, they probably just, for the most part, use the small breakfast nook, I was thinking. But we are moving on to the 2nd floor now, and we have this landing space, and the floor plan up here just gave me so much trouble, but I feel like in the end, it actually makes sense. And it's pretty nice. It's not too complicated. I had to close off some areas due to the roofing. I'm pretty sure that we're all familiar with the clipping roof lines in The Sims 4. So I kind of had to, some spaces I didn't really want to close off the way I have them closed off now, but I kind of had to work with that because otherwise my roofs would be clipping inside, and I have that open staircase, and so it just wasn't something I could fix. So the game definitely gave me a couple clipping roofs to kind of work around or work with. And I actually think it turned out pretty nice. It turned it out. Wow, that's great English. It turned out pretty nicely. So over here we have one of the first bedrooms, and this is a pretty fancy one. They have an ensuite. Not all the bedrooms have ensuites, but a couple of them do. And then we also have a couple of hall bathrooms up here. And I also created a couple of built-in wardrobes. I didn't really want to use the built-in wardrobes from Get Together because they're just too modern and too angular, and I didn't really like it. And I wanted to create something with archways to kind of look into the built-in wardrobe, if that makes sense. And I know storage-wise, it probably doesn't make the most sense the way I did it, but I thought it looked cute, and I thought it added to like the vibe of the house. So that's the way I did it. For most of the rooms actually have that, so that's the way I did it. So we have that one double bedroom over there, and then over here we have a 2 single bedroom, and there is another 2 single bedroom in this house, and then there is 2 more double bedrooms. I'm kind of losing track of how many bedrooms I have, but I've filmed I think 3 of them, and then there is, I'm not exactly sure how many more bedrooms, but I will show you at the end of the video. I know I said 7 in the beginning. That might be a little bit of an overstatement. Okay, let me count. We have this one, the previous one, and the one I'm doing next. Then we have another 2 single bed one, and then we have 1 other double bed one, and then we have the butlers. Okay, we have 6 bedrooms total. Six bedrooms, I think, is what it is. And I really tried to give them each their own color scheme, their own theme, kind of, but I also really wanted to make them all look very traditional, classical, kind of romantic. I don't know, that's kind of what I was going for. And this bed that I'm using in this bedroom from the Realm of Magic pack, oh, it was so perfect. I love this bed. The canopy bed, it's so pretty with the glasswork on top. I don't know what it is, but it is literally magical, which is what it's supposed to be because it's from the Magic pack. But it was so pretty, and I basically focused on the bed for the main piece of this room. And then I kind of just like worked around that. I took inspiration from the colors of the bed to kind of like try and make that come back in the rest of the furniture. And I think I succeeded, and I also managed to put a little fireplace. I used that tiny little fireplace from Horse Ranch in basically all the bedrooms, I believe. It's so small and just, it makes sense for a small little bedroom, so that's kind of what I did. But then for the most part, you can see that the bedrooms are feeling a little bit empty because I just didn't clutter them up or fill up every single corner of every single room. So that was definitely something that was a little bit different for me, something I'm not used to, but I feel like it makes sense for a big house like this. And then this little bedroom over here also has, or it's not a little bedroom, but the bedroom has a door leading onto a small balcony, which is so romantic and just so cute. And then over here we have the butler's quarters on the side of the house. So the butler has their own living room space, bedroom space, and their own bathroom. So I guess that is pretty nice. It's only very small, but I feel like it's very cozy. It was so nice to actually have a smaller space to furnish in this house because all the rooms are so big. So it was such a relief to just like sit there and decorate this like small, it's actually kind of small, this small living room space for the butler and still make it very fancy and luxurious, but just like small and cozy, I guess. So that's what I did. I also used a lot of the furniture from Discover University, by the way, in this build. It really came in handy because it's so fancy and expensive looking and old, like classical, traditional looking. So that is definitely something that I use a lot. And then the butler over here, as you can see, they have their little living room space, also with a small little dining table, and then they have an archway leading into their bedroom, and then their bedroom has an ensuite. And the butler actually has like this small, I guess, study or office space leading into their quarters. But I guess that office space isn't necessarily supposed to be only for the butler, or maybe it's the butler's workspace. Maybe it's where the butler sits down to like order, I don't know, groceries or order wine or whatever for like parties and stuff like that. So they have a little study or office space in front of their quarters, if that makes sense. And then over here we have that party space, the space where I kind of wasn't sure what to do with. I was thinking maybe I could turn it into like a chapel, or maybe I could turn it into like a greenhouse. That would actually kind of be cool too. If you want to play with this house and you want more space for gardening, then I feel like you'd easily turn this into a really cool Harry Potter-ish kind of greenhouse. Oh, now I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't do that instead. Oh, that would be so cool to like actually put in some extra windows, maybe like a glass roof or something. Now I'm kind of bummed out, but I guess this is cool too. So over here we have like a space for parties with a dance floor, an extra bar, and like a stage. I was messing around with that music area for the longest time, and then I just decided to put in a stage kind of thing with a platform, and I feel like that made so much more sense. And then we have a dance floor, a bar on the other side, and then a couple of tables and chairs on this side if you want to like host like some drinks or whatever. I don't really know, but like for your parties or maybe even a wedding, you could very easily convert this space for like a wedding or what have you. So I guess it's a multifunctional space, and like I said, if you wanted to turn it into a greenhouse, then you could very easily do that as well. I didn't necessarily place a lot of like outdoor planter pots and farming stuff around because I didn't really want to have this home or this build feel like a farm where there's a lot of gardening going on. That's not necessarily what it is. I wanted it to feel literally very royal. So that's kind of what I wanted. And so it's not necessarily a farm or anything, which is why I kind of steered away from doing like an orchard, which is something I thought of in the beginning. But I was like, they probably have an orchard, but not right here. They probably have another plot of land surrounded, like in this surrounding area where they have their orchard and their farming and stuff like that. But it's not something they have like right here by the house is what I was thinking. I guess that kind of makes sense if you have like a royal family living in the space. But yeah, over here we have the back of the house where we have the pool. I wasn't sure what to do with the space exactly. I didn't really like how it looked in the beginning, but I ended up adding some fancy planter boxes and things and like some fancy flowers everywhere. And I guess that way it kind of filled up the space, and yeah, I guess it kind of started to make sense to me. But I wanted this pool to kind of look old. It's not dirty. It's a pool you can actually use. It's clean, but it's still old. And then here we have that front porch situation that I think turned out so fun. I have a small fountain on that first little stepping area, I guess, and then we have a little staircase up to the front door where I placed a couple benches and some tables and chairs and whatnot. And a lot of those flower pots are from Get Together, and they're just so perfect, like so classical and they just make so much sense for a house like this. And then I found this cool floor piece. I think that round floor piece kind of thing, it's in the rug section. I think it's from the Jungle Pack. I'm not exactly sure, but it was actually so cool because it kind of looked like, what's that word? Like a family, oh gosh, I don't know what the English word for it is, but like a family sign that you like see on the wall, except it's on the floor for this one. It's like in the tiles. I thought that would be really cool as well. So I used that and placed some fountains. And then over here we have the horse stables where we just have two very spacious stalls for the horses, like stables, but you could easily have 4 horses because each stable has 2 horse beds each. So you can have 4 horses total if you wanted to. And then over here, we actually have a ladder going up to the 2nd floor and then another ladder going up into that little tower, which leads onto the rooftop, which I thought was so cool. But here in this area, I thought, you know what, why not put like a wine making thing from the horse ranch pack in there? So that's a cool activity. But that's basically it for this build. So let's jump in the game and I'll show you the house in real time. So here we have the estate in the game. I can't lie, it looks pretty cool. It looks very royal, which is exactly what I wanted. And I'm so glad that the game didn't get rid of my terrain paint. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, I guess let me just give you a little tour of the place. So over here we have the driveway. I kind of try to blend in the letterbox to the best of my abilities, and I feel like it looks kind of good. And then over here you can get a good look of like the pathways leading you to the horse stables over there. We have these small gardens, little zen gardens, I guess you could call them, with a fountain in the middle, a couple of benches, and just a lot of beautiful flowers. I did the same thing over here on this side. And then over here, this kind of leads you up to the front door of the house. And I just really like how this area came out with the double staircase, the beautiful flowers, the fountain, and then just like this portion looking over the pond. I guess that that is something that turned out pretty cool. But when you just follow along the pathway over here, there is another old pond. I tried to put a couple of picnic benches here and there for your Sims to just hang out. And then over here we have the stables. So this was not included in the speed build per se, but you can get a better look at the shape of the place. So the horse stable itself turned into a tiny castle, and I think that is so cool. So inside the stables over here, we just have these huge stables for the horses themselves, a little bit of clutter around, and then this is like the space for them to just hang out outside. And then you can take the ladder to the 2nd floor here. If your sim is into winemaking, then you can do that. Over here you can craft some nectar, and then you can even climb all the way to the roof here and look at the stars. Then over here there is another small pathway kind of leading you around the house. So there is a little bit more garden to explore over here. This portion just kind of leads you right from the front to the back of the house. There are some porches or terraces over here where your Sims can just hang out as well. Over here they can have dinner outside, and then there is that beautiful pool on the side here as well. And that kind of leads us back around, I guess. So how about we just we go inside. So over here you can get a better look at the floor plan. It's a little bit intimidating, but I feel like routing wise it makes sense. So we have the hallway and then this indoor outdoor portion that kind of leads you into the party space over here. So this is that formal party area with a dance floor and some tables and chairs and the music and the bar. And over here is the hallway. So this is where the front door is, and they have their little museum situation over here as well. And off of the hallway there is a beautiful bathroom. This is also the biggest bathroom of the house. For some reason all the other bathrooms turned out really small, but it just made the most sense that way. So this is a really fancy big hall bathroom. Then the entryway kind of leads you into another hallway, which leads you into the main living quarters, I guess you could almost call it. Over here we have the library library. I love how this came out. This feels so extra, and I love that it's even functional because there's a little computer here, and your Sims can play chess, which is really nice. They can do some painting. There's a fireplace. Will this easel catch fire when you turn on the fireplace? Yes, it probably will, but you know, living on the edge. And then across from the library, we have the main living room space, the formal living area with some huge bookcases, a beautiful fireplace, a big painting. There's a lot of urns in this house as well. I kind of felt like that made sense. You know, old, dead royal family members. There is a beautiful piano in the back here, and we just have this cozy little seating area. Some more bookcases over here and just a bunch of art. And then through these doors, you enter into the dining room, which actually might be one of my favorite rooms in the house. As intimidated as I was by the space of this room, I feel like it turned out pretty cool. So there is, I guess, a more cozy dining area over here by the fireplace for family dinners. And then there's a couple extra tables over here for parties and a nice bar, of course. I feel like this bar especially turned out pretty cozy. I love that clutter in the corner there. And then off of the dining room, there is an entertainment room with a TV. And of course, that is where my playtester sim ran to because apparently there's nothing better than a TV, so this is where she is hanging out. And then there is a foosball table over here and just some fancy leather chairs and some darts. And off of this little room, there is a small bathroom as well, which I thought would be convenient. It's a nice half bath. Through these doors, there is a kitchen. I am obsessed with how this kitchen came out, and it just, looking at this floor tile immediately brings me back to The Sims 1 again. It's just so nostalgic for me, and I feel like it turned out so cool. I love these stoves, the double stoves with the pots and pans hanging from the ceiling. It's definitely cluttered, but not overly so. I have a double fridge too. I have to double up on the appliances to kind of fill up the space a little bit. We also have double sinks for that reason. It was just looking nice and centered underneath the windows that way. And then over here is a breakfast nook by the fireplace. Again, nice and cozy. And there's two doors basically like leading you to the outside. And also the dining room, by the way, has a door leading you onto this porch as well, to the front of the house where you can just kind of hang out. This is, I guess, the entrance for when there's a party, or maybe just, I don't know, maybe you would use a formal entrance. I'm not sure, but there's a porch there. Then going back to this initial hallway in between the living and the library, we have the staircase leading us to the second floor. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of rooms, but basically over here is the main landing by the staircase, of course. And then we have this first bedroom that I decorated in the speed build as well. It's very simple. I love this bed from Vampires. It's so royal and extra and exactly what I wanted. I used a bunch of vampire stuff in here, by the way. There's a vanity as well, and there's this built-in wardrobe that I thought looked really cute. And then these people have an ensuite, so they have a nice, simple little bathroom. Across from this bedroom is, first of all, a hall bath for the next two rooms to share. So over here is a bedroom with two single beds. This one could easily be turned into like a kid's room. I didn't really focus on putting in any children's stuff because it just didn't really match the house that well. For gameplay, obviously you would need it, but I just decided not to, and you can easily go through and add it in yourself. Then over here is another bedroom that I actually furnished on camera. This might be one of my favorites just because that bed from Realm of Magic is so pretty. And this room has this tiny balcony, again with a telescope to look at the stars at night. Then continuing on to this side of the second floor. So here is another bedroom that I did not, this one I did not actually record. So this is a blue bedroom with, again, a double bed. They have a built-in wardrobe as well and a small ensuite, as you can see. And they also have double doors opening up to a balcony out front, which I guess is really nice. And then across from this bedroom is another single bed bedroom, which is also really big. big, and they also have an ensuite. So this also could easily be turned into like a kid's room, teen's room, just a shared bedroom in general. And they have these bookcases around the door. I thought that was so cozy. And this door leads into a small ensuite again. And they also have access to this huge balcony. So I guess maybe this is the nicest room. It's so big. And then over here we have an archway leading you into the butler's area. So I guess this entire area here is belongs kind of to the butler. This is their workspace. They have an office here with, again, a fireplace, of course. Tiny little balconies on either side of the office, which is where I place some benches so your Sims can hang out there as well. And then over here is their living, bedroom, and bathroom. So a beautiful living room over here with these couches from university, which I thought were so fun. A small table, and then an archway leading into their bedroom, which is really simply decorated, but I feel like it still feels very cozy. And then off of their bedroom, they have a bathroom. But I guess that's it for this build. So this build is up on the gallery. It's called the Grand Family Estate on the gallery. It comes in at just over 600,000 simoleons. I think that might be one of the most expensive builds I've ever done. I'm not exactly sure, but I think so, which is actually kind of crazy. I built it on a 64 by 64 in the upper portion of Windenburg, so if you want to place it in your game, then that is where it goes. But that's gonna do it for today's video, so I really hope that you enjoyed this one. You can obviously go ahead and download it off the gallery, like I just showed you. My username on the gallery is Simmary Sims. You can also follow me on Instagram, Threads, and on TikTok if you'd like. My username on there is Simmary Sims as well. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, feel free to do so, and if you would like to get notified of every single time I upload a video, just click that little bell icon and you should be fine. I also live stream over on Twitch a few times a week, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and give me a follow over on twitch.tv/Simmary Sims. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!